So welcome to Real Estate Stories. I'm your host, Cody Coda. My co-host here is Jake McClure.
Hello.
And we've got a special guest for you, Jennifer Fields. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Great. Well, welcome to the show. So what brought you into real estate, Jennifer?
I was exposed to real estate. Sorry, I'm trying to turn off some of this noise. I was exposed to real estate at a pretty early age from a family member and knew that that was just definitely probably something that would be in my future at some point.
Okay. Was it like somebody was a realtor, or were they just an investor?
My aunt, she is a top producer still in the Bay Area in California. So she had a daughter that had some special needs. So I used to spend summers out there helping her. So I was kind of thrown into it.
So you're exposed to it. You got bit by the real estate bug, and
Absolutely.
ever since. What'd you do before you got into real estate?
I was a teacher for a short time, then a stay-at-home mom.
Awesome. So what keeps Jennifer in real estate today?
I think part of it is no 2 days are alike. It's always exciting. It's always challenging. And my path in real estate has been non-typical, so to speak. And so I don't ever have the same advice.
Okay. So when you say non-typical, what does that mean?
So I had been in real estate for about 6 months when I was approached to represent a home builder. And so in doing that 16 years ago, changed the trajectory of everything from the point that now I am investing in developments. We just closed on our 4th development together, rental properties, regular buying and selling, and then new homes. So it's a very, I guess you'd say, atypical real estate career.
Okay. So you're working more on the development side of it now. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I work on all of it. So I have regular listings, I have regular buyers, I have new home listings, rental property listings, and then developments.
Nice.
Awesome.
Pretty diverse portfolio.
Yeah, really well diverse. What do you think makes you successful in real estate?
I think the fact that I'm always yearning to learn. I always want more. I always want to figure out exactly how things happen from start to finish and why they happen. And then the other part of it is I also just love working with people and finding them the place that really works best for them.
That's good. And so how long have you been selling now?
16 years.
Wow, that's a really long time.
17 years.
So, 17 years?
17 years, yeah.
What advice would you have given your past self if you could go back with kind of all the 17 years worth of wisdom that you have now? What would you impart on your past self when you first got into the business?
Yeah, I probably would have said to leave emotions out earlier than I learned to do that of it.
So just leave emotions out of the transaction altogether.
Right. Whether it be with a client, whether it be with another realtor, whether it be in other situations, I think, stepping back and leaving some of those things behind would be beneficial to start earlier in your career.
That's really good advice. I would agree with that. I know just between the buyer and seller's emotions and it can get really tense, and the last thing you want, unfortunately, you'll know sometimes it does happen, that having the agents get, emotional.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to feed into their emotions, which can make the entire transaction a little bit more painful than it needs to be.
Right.
Absolutely. How long did it take for you to get your first closing?
30 days, 31 days.
Just hit the ground running, huh?
Yeah, we had floor time at that point in time. I started out with a brokerage that I'm not with now that was known for relocation, and they had a lot of military. So you were able to pick up the call. People were calling in that day about homes that they wanted to see. So I just kind of hit the ground. It wasn't safe. I just ran out the first appointment and found him a house the next day and went for it. Now
Yeah. So, I mean, that you hit your first closing in, 30, 31 days. What do you remember about being, just so new, trying to figure it out in that process. Just because I mean, I remember, my first closing, I didn't know. I asked for closing costs, and I didn't know prepaids were separate. And it was a whole thing. So, how was your first closing that you can remember?
One thing I'll say, and it may have been the best thing that ever happened to me, was lack of broker assistance or help.
Mm.
So I had other realtors within the office, helping me guide through. I think I figured out really quickly that it was up to me to determine my future and to learn in this.
Wow, that's good. What did that support look like when you got in? It doesn't seem like you had a whole lot from the brokerage.
There really wasn't any support when I got in. I mean, now I think brokerages are doing a better job of developing agents. And obviously, 17 years is a long time. One thing that's completely changed is technology. And so at that time, there were no webinars, there were no courses, there was nothing. You were lucky if you had, 20 minutes of your broker's time for questions.
Were you just like an individual agent, or did you join a team?
I was
individual. What's your support look like today? Do you run like a team? Do you run an office?
I run a team of 2 agents on my team, and then 2 office support staff.
Nice.
Awesome. That's good.
It's right I couldn't do it without her.
What was that? So you've been in business 17 years. What was the point that you decided to turn it into a team and go from being an individual? And what did that look like?
Just 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I look at, so with that, I probably have control issues. And so I like to manage everything myself. And the opportunity arose for some people to join my team who worked in the same manner that I worked. And I felt really confident with them. Tried out with a couple of agents and it wasn't working. We didn't work in the same manner. So with this team now, they work like I work. And that would be my expectation.
That's good. What disillusions did you uncover, Jennifer, from when you first got into the business?
I think, well, one is support. I thought, when you get in that everyone's going to want you to succeed and be helpful and that type of thing. And you get in, it would be lovely. But in so many ways, it's definitely every realtor for themselves throughout the process. And I would also say too, I'm a pretty upfront, lay it out person that so many people in this business are not that way. And so typically you can find a snake in the grass.
Wow, that's real.
Who's your inspiration and why?
Really my family, for sure. So my mom is one of 14 kids from a small town in Oklahoma, and they're all extremely hardworking, great ethic. They put a lot of values in us as extended family, so to speak. And I think I've done that with my kids as well.
That's good. What part of Oklahoma did you say?
They're from Vanos, Oklahoma, in southeastern Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old are the kiddos?
So I have a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 21-year-old.
Oh, those are good ages.
Yeah.
So what's been your most embarrassing story that you'd like to share?
You get a lot of them in real estate. You're out with as many people and things happen for sure. But probably one of the most embarrassing is I was showing an oak tree and it was a large home. And I started texting and went all the way down the staircase.
Oh!
To the end. And their child, who was like 5, was like, "You shouldn't text and walk." And I was like, "No, you're right. I shouldn't."
Get a little sass from a 5-year-old, make you feel this big.
And by showing a house.
Did you break anything? Were you okay after the fall, or was it just the ego?
Oh,
Hurt?
I was good. Yeah,
That's good.
I was fine. My ego was bruised, but
Don't text and walk at the same time. That's good advice for me. What's been the most scary kind of story maybe that you've Man, 17 years. I mean, yeah, you can definitely imagine.
I actually have a ghost story.
Yeah.
So where I first started was a lot of people relocating. And so what I thought was a husband and wife coming in to look for a house, wanted to look specifically in Guthrie. And so it ended up being a husband, best friend, and they were channeling the wife while looking for orbs in homes. And so they wanted to find a home. You can't make this up. They wanted to find a home that a ghost lived in. So I lasted about 3 days with them and passed.
Were they buying it for like a haunted house to?
Yes, they
to?
were.
Okay,
They
that
were.
makes more sense.
And I was fresh. I mean, I was probably 2-3 months in the business, and that's when I learned, like, if you don't work with a client, move on.
So, did you find them the haunted house? That's kind of the
No, I 2 days. I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
We're not going to do this.
because you're crazy people. Yeah.
So let's just move on. So
Okay.
a very seasoned in our office then took a hold of
What
this.
do you like? Where would you start as a realtor? I mean, I've never had that request. Hey, I want to find a house that's haunted.
Well, they didn't say that until we were
Referral.
in it. Yeah. They didn't say it until we were in. And I get Guthrie's beautiful. Some of those historic homes are just lovely. So I get why somebody would want to focus and look at that area. It's a great value for the home. So I understood that portion, but I wasn't sure exactly what they
intended. They didn't say, hey, our motivation for buying is not just for, we want to be able to find, a haunted house.
Right.
Wow.
I guess you didn't feel unfinished business by not helping them, huh?
No, I was good.
As a ghost joke. Unfinished business.
Okay. What's been the most, well, let me ask you this, because I'm kind of curious about this. Now, did you refer them off to another agent, or what happened? You just
I did to a very experienced agent in that office at the time. She's since retired. But
Finding haunted houses, or
no, just experience with crazy. That's
So, did they find them the haunted house?
actually, if you want to know what happened, they did buy a house. It was not at that point in time what they initially came and looked for, but they had a gas leak and the house blew up when they were not home several years after. Everyone was
Oh my
fine, but
gosh.
it is.
Oh, see, I thought that was going a
It
totally
was-
different direction.
It was haunted.
That they
Yeah.
turned it into a haunted house because they, tried to pass over in it to become ghosts. I thought that's where, but
No, but maybe. I don't know.
yeah, who's to say? Who's to say? Maybe.
That's
Yeah.
a good story. Thank you for sharing that. What's been an uncomfortable, maybe stressful situation, maybe a closing that kind of drug on, or just what's been
Yeah.
the most uncomfortable story?
I think the most uncomfortable is really how I got to where I am today, to be quite honest. So I had some people who were moving into town, working with Chesapeake, and this was 17 years ago. So it's when Chesapeake was really getting started rolling. So we were out looking at homes, and I remember I was sitting in the back seat between their two labs looking at homes. So every time you got out to look at a house, two dogs got out, we got out, that type of thing. We really weren't finding the home that worked for them, but we did find a neighborhood that worked for them. So this home in particular that we saw the sign on was not on the market. So I called the listing realtor at the time. It was going to be a future parade home. So I said, hey, they want to buy it. Tell me, what it's listed for, everything. So we were at a full price offer, get it delivered. This is before e-signature, so you're running all over town with offers. And the agent calls me and says, there's upgraded hardware, the price will need to be this. My clients are like, that's fine. So I actually have them come to my home and put the dogs in the backyard because I feel so bad for them that I'm like, let's just get this worked out. So we get everything worked out and everything delivered back to the agent. And 2 days later, they had it signed. And so I call the agent and I'm like, hey, I don't have a signed contract yet. Is there anything you need from me? And they, at that point, said, hey, we decided we're not going to sell the home. We don't want to give up the freight opportunity. So that night, that's where we talk about emotions. I can remember I was crying. I was so upset. I was like, oh my gosh, these people have left. They've planned their life in this house. They've got their furniture in this house. If anybody understood the buyer mentality when they commit to a home, I mean, it's very strong. Their emotions run very deep with it.
Mhm.
So I actually had run across the builder before in a transaction. So, and again, this was maybe my third or fourth month in real estate, if even that. So the next morning I called my broker. He went to the office like at 4 a.m. He's since passed away, but he had very atypical office hours. So I called him like at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I don't think I slept. I think I was just sick. You know, you're a new realtor. You're just taking all of this in. And so I called him and he said to me, you're a smart kid. You'll figure it out. Let me know what happened. Hung up the phone. Like, okay then.
Well, he wasn't wrong
let's-
about that, I'm gonna guess. I don't know if that would be my
Let's
response.
figure it out. I mean, it was some of the best advice I probably have received. And so at that point, I called the builder and requested a meeting with him that morning. Met with them at the house, laid it out, sold him the house. And 6 months later, not even 6 months later, that home building company split up. It was Trustmark Homes at the time. So part split to Four Corners and part split to Silverstone. So the Silverstone portion of it, Mark called and wanted to meet with me to become his realtor.
Wow.
Wow.
So
It
solving
turned out to be a really good thing.
Yeah.
the problem created my future. So it was honestly the best advice I've ever received.
Huh. That's
That's one of our
Man.
questions, by the way. So when I asked you the question, hey, what's the best advice you can give in real estate? Your response is, you'll figure it out. You're a smart gal. Go do
Right.
it.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I think there's not a book you can read. There's not any of it other than intuition on how to do what's right for your money.
I mean, that's trial by fire. I would expect the broker to step up and be anything more than that. But
Well, my thoughts immediately go to, I would be like, hey, you're smart. You got this. Walk me through kind of, how would you handle this? I just wanted to make sure that the associate had the right game plan in place that way. You know what I mean? But that's a lot of confidence.
Yeah. No.
Like you could, hey, discomfort leads, it pushes you into
yeah.
a direction.
You grow in uncomfortable situations and all that, blah blah blah. It was the broker's responsibility transactionally to check that situation. I would say, but man,
I don't. It worked out.
you strong armed the situation and made it happen. So good on you. But man, you put 70% of other real estate agents in our market in that situation, and I don't think that works out that way.
Yeah.
So,
Interestingly enough, I was at an award ceremony for this company in Vegas, and I can remember, things that change your life. You can remember places and times really well. So I remember we were checking out of the Luxor in Las Vegas. One and only time I've stayed there. Wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I remember I was checking out and one of my customers called me and said some guy named Martin Tusher, and it's Teicher, so I knew exactly who she was talking about, is calling me asking me questions. Well, I had registered them as buyers with the previous home building company, so I assumed he was poaching my customer. And so I called him immediately from the hotel in the lobby, chewing him out, like, what are you doing now? Like, we've already gone toe to toe. Like, what's the situation? He was like, well, I actually left that home building company and I want to talk to you about being my realtor. My tone immediately changed. Like, okay. Can we meet?
yeah. Wow.
That's a good story. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's been the happiest ever? Which one that's brought tears of joy to you?
There's a lot of them that do that for sure. And in looking at that question, I was a little bit like, there's so many that do, but I'll probably have to say one that I'm working on right now. Kind of interesting. They're both neighbors of mine, and one of them is one of my very best friends. Anyway, one of them was divorced, and the other one, their spouse, died suddenly young. And they found love by being in the same neighborhood. So now got them in a new home within our neighborhood, and we're selling both of theirs, and they get to kind of start a new life together that already had a lot of stability just by the neighborhood that we live in and the environment created.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
So
that's
it's pretty
a
cool.
real estate store that brings people together. That's awesome. What's been just maybe your just all-time favorites that you'd like to share? Any all-time
You
favorites?
know, I think my all-time favorite is I think I was really naive when I got into this business.
You are.
Yeah, and naive about people and past and lives and thing, so you get into it, and I think as realtors, we find out more about people than maybe their families or other people know. You really do a lot of information about people, and
Right.
you want to earn their trust in that way. I mean, we couldn't be successful if we weren't earning trust.
Right.
But I do remember being at one closing, and when you have the document of your aliases or previous names, her new husband wasn't aware of several, by several, more than 6 previous marriages. So we were at the table, and they sent that form over, and I mean, it was like, oh, what just happened here?
So, real quick clarification. A married couple buying a house,
Right.
and the alias sheet comes out, and the wife in the situation had 6 previous marriages. Is that what you said?
Oh, I think it was more than that. I think
Spouse
it was,
didn't know about it.
it was a lot. Yeah. And the spouse had no clue. No clue.
What a discussion to have on closing day.
They left the closing company for a while,
Right.
and then back and signed. But it was like they
They
walked
still
out.
sign?
They still signed the closer, and I just were like, oh my gosh, what in the world?
Not me. It couldn't be me. I would. Okay, well, bye then.
It's like, well, we'll see what happens.
That's
Wow.
interesting.
That is,
What?
It was-
When did you know that you made it in real estate, Jennifer?
I mean, I'll have to say, I don't know that I know that I've made it in real estate. That's kind of how I view it. I feel like if you get to that point, or you get comfortable, or you get complacent, that you're not really doing yourself any favors.
so what do you think the point is in the 17 years that you decided that you weren't going to do anything else, that real estate was for you?
So interestingly enough, right after I got into the business, I had done a lot of work with the Alzheimer's Association previously, because my grandfather had Alzheimer's. And so they had actually called me with a pharmaceutical sales lead. And at the time, your first year in real estate essentially is equivalent to hell, I think. I mean, I think it's a boot camp, and I think that, you can't sleep. You're yearning for more business. You're yearning to figure it out. You're constantly getting confused and frustrated. I mean, no 2 transactions are the same. And so you're trying to figure it out, but there's no way. I mean, even now we deal with situations every single day that we've never dealt with before. And that's forever. But when you're first going through those situations, figuring out how you really do handle them is stressful. And like I said, I did not have a lot of broker support in that sense at the very beginning of my career, for sure. So I'd gotten that phone call to go, and I went, and I kind of got to the last phase of signing the contract and just walked away from it. It was like, no, I put in time with this. I've created good opportunity. I'm going to stick with it.
Wow, that's good. How would you describe your personality?
I would describe it probably outgoing, obviously, probably pretty strong, pretty controlling at times of my business, not of other things, but definitely in my business.
It makes you a great agent. What's an area where, maybe a family member or friend is um, spoke to what they feel is, a personality trait or how they describe you, you don't necessarily agree with that. We've all kind of had, somebody.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily had that with family, but I did just have a situation where a realtor told another realtor she was intimidated to come have a meeting with me.
Mm.
That was like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be. Like, I would be completely happy to give you advice or help you in any way. So I think that sometimes people may look at numbers or production and misconstrue what you are as a person.
Yeah, people think it's going to be some type of hierarchy of real estate, like it's like a movie or something, or just people
Dude, I
out
think
here.
it's the complete opposite, quite frankly. I mean, there's all these outliers, but I think the ones that I've dealt with in terms of production, they seem the more production, almost like the nicest, more kinder than other people because they, just because they do a bunch of production. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that we've dealt with all of the realtors for so many years who aren't necessarily the most friendly or helpful in a transaction. So it
Right.
kind of changed your viewpoint.
Yeah.
And we've probably all been, I mean, I can say there was definitely times that I wasn't the most helpful in a transaction, but then I realized that if we didn't all work together, then we were never going to have, I guess you'd say, cohesive success.
Seems like there's a culture shift happening that like the old guard, so to speak, is shifting. It's becoming more of a community than it ever has been.
I agree.
I've only been in this 3 years, and it seems to be changing just within the 3 years that I've been in this. Just the exposure that I've had to other agents, and there's a camaraderie that other sales jobs, because I've done a ton of sales jobs. There's nothing like that in any other sales job. There's no helping you make more money than me thing. It's me versus you versus everyone else,
Right.
and that's seems to be the kind of old way of real estate that's getting changed now. So and it's just an awesome thing to see.
I agree. It's a good thing.
Jennifer, what is something that most people don't know about you?
I don't know. I looked at that and I wasn't quite sure how to answer it. I think, Facebook has opened up to where people know a lot more about you. But one of the things I don't know that a lot of people know is that I was a single mom throughout the majority of my career. And so I balanced,
Oh, wow.
and that was 2 children at the time. I remarried, and so the oldest brought to me through my husband. But, I think that it brings a little bit different dynamic to know as a single mother, you were able to accomplish and grow into things that you really wanted to do.
I mean, that fortifies a grind that, when you're a single mom providing for 2 kids, that's a special type of grind.
Dude, yeah, single parenting by itself, then you got to add in that, hey, you're also the breadwinner. You got to go do the work thing. Like that.
There's so many hours in a day to be able to pull those both off.
And my kids they were awesome. I mean, they are awesome still, but during that time, like their ability, I had 2 things that I tried to do every day, and that was take them to school and pick them up from school. Because I knew if I didn't have those 2 touch points during the day, we may get lost in things. So even if I had help at the house when they were younger, if I had to go back out to work, I just wanted to make sure that they started their day with me and ended their school day with me, so I could try and keep up on important things. And I think that they were great. If I had to wait at the curb longer or anything else, they kind of understood the dynamics of life, for sure.
I'm sure all the other realtor pair, that's something that we can all really relate to. My hat off to you, though, doing that by yourself for.
It's interesting because my 23-year-old daughter definitely has been bit by the work bug. I think she can already be classified as a workaholic.
Oh, really?
I think that's helped allow her to keep her job during the time that we're in right now.
Is she in real estate too, or no?
She's in artist representation and management in LA. So.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Jake, did you have any other questions before we go into our last 2 closing questions?
I typically go through our guest Facebook to try to pull out any type of juicy information. It just seems like you're really into memes and cooking. What?
Totally into cooking memes. Yeah.
So is that what's your favorite dish to make? Because it looks like you have some pretty extravagant looking.
So I'm obsessed with this cookbook, and Lauren, my assistant over here, is obsessed with it as well, called The Defined Dish. And
Okay.
it's all like Whole30 and paleo, but it tastes restaurant quality. So like
A defined
lately,
this.
Defined Dish. Yeah. It's literally, once you start to cook out of it, a little bit of an obsession.
Yeah, I need to cook a lot more for myself. I typically just take out or Postmates, so I need to get in there
Right
and start
now,
cooking some.
yeah, it's a great time to cook at home.
Yeah,
I mean-
it was a good time to do it. I try to support local through lunch and then cook at home in the evening.
Mhm.
My husband's career, he typically will be able to eat lunch, but sometimes he's a pilot, so sometimes it's crazy. So we try and kind of regroup at night with a quiet night cooking.
So let's go through like a Twilight Zone situation. Real estate no longer an option for you to do. What do you do? What career do you get into?
Real estate no longer an option for me. I think I would probably get into personal coaching and development, because I feel like, the more you can kind of give back and guide people on whatever career, when I guess you'd say fallen on your face a number of times and gotten back up and dusted it off and went back out there, you hope that you can instill that in people as well.
Right. I like that. Well, that's it for me.
Okay. So one of our staple questions I was with Jennifer is, hypothetically, let's say you were not in real estate and you had to sell your house, and the only rule with it is you couldn't select somebody to sell your house that's currently on your team. Can't select me or Jake to sell your house either.
Okay.
What agent in our marketplace would you
Trust.
to sell your house? Yeah.
It's interesting. I really thought about that question a lot, to be quite honest. And so the people I would choose necessarily sell in my area, but I would say I just know that I can completely and totally trust this person, and I know that they would have my best interest at heart. So I would go with Heather and Alan Davis.
Okay.
What was that
We met.
name? Sorry, Heather.
Heather and Alan Davis.
No, okay, cool.
Where do they sell out?
Bell Nichols Hills area, and I live in Arcadia.
Hey, I'm from Luther.
Oh, are you really?
Mhm.
Okay.
I have family and they've left. I have one uncle still there, but my uncle Pete used to do like little league coaching and quite a bit out there.
Pete Peterson?
Yeah,
That was my little league coach.
yeah,
Like
that's one of the 14.
Pete, Corey,
Yeah.
Chris.
Chris,
Yeah.
yeah,
Man,
Anita,
don't they live in like North Carolina or something now?
yes, yeah, South Carolina.
Nice.
Small
Wow.
world.
Pete
Huh?
Peterson. My
He's-
guy.
He was your little league coach. Yeah.
Yeah, that dude inspired me as a kid, man. Wow.
I will say that it's definitely, I believe, our family spirit that we all kind of operate that way.
Mhm. So you know that he had that little cabin out in Luther with the
Mhm.
little pond? That was my grandfather's land and little cabin at one point in time. He sold it to him, or it went through someone else or something. But it was
My uncle Jimmy John is out there with his cattle and the pond.
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
there you go. That's really neat. So what makes you unique, Jennifer? Out of all the agents in our marketplace, what makes you unique?
I think one of the things is kind of touching every facet of the business. I feel like once I got into representing new homes, I even understood how to look at and sell existing homes in a different way, because you see quality, you might see defects that somebody may not know about, but once you really start to experience things from the ground up, it changes your perspective quite a bit on looking at all of real estate.
Good answer. Okay, well, we're out of questions, so I appreciate you coming on the show. Definitely enjoyed the time we've had. Jake, I know you've enjoyed it. Jennifer, where can the viewers find you?
You can find me at jenniferfields.com, Facebook under Jennifer Fields Real Estate, or just under Jennifer Schilling Fields. Or you can call or text me at 405-412-2273.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you guys. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll catch everybody next time.
All right,
Thanks, Jennifer.
thank you.